Welcome to the Women of Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Calder-Hume. This is my interview with Valerie Plowman, the Babywise Mom. Valerie has been running a successful blog for 14 years now, and we chat about her growth with her website while also working from home and raising 4 kiddos. We do talk a bit about sleep training and parenting in this one, but I think her overarching message of making choices and aligning with priorities are universal. I especially love her thoughts on the different kinds of perfectionism and how she set up her son with extra life experiences to allow his gift of perfecting to work for him. That piece in particular is one I'm still mulling over and looking for ways to apply to myself. Valerie is just a total wealth of wisdom. Enjoy. I have Valerie Plowman here today. Hi, Valerie.
Hello.
Thanks so much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So you are person after my own heart. You are a writer, you're a blogger, you're a mother of 4, and you are the place where I was introduced for the first time to the concept of sleep training and Babywise. And you have this amazing blog with all these resources, not just about sleep training, but about parenthood and mothering and just this whole stage of life that so many of us are in. What inspired you to go and share this part of your life with the world?
It actually was in response to somebody hating on Babywise. So the blog started back in the day when everyone had a family blog. And I was in this Yahoo email group. So it was so long ago that Yahoo email groups were a thing. And I was in a group for my second child because she had reflux. And I went to the group because I didn't know how to do Babywise with a reflux baby. So I was hoping to find advice, but it ended up that I was the most experienced in that group. And so I ended up answering all these questions. And the same questions would come up over and over again. And one day I thought, I'm tired of typing the same answer out a million times. So I had this great idea of just putting my answers into blog posts on a blog all about Babywise. And so I did that. And then a few weeks later, I went back and saw all of these comments from a hater. And I thought, Babywise has been fantastic for my family. And so if there are voices out there fighting against Babywise so strongly, I want to be a voice that shows the good side so that it can be a great thing for other people who want to use it also. And so it wasn't something I set out as a goal, but it was a response that became a goal.
Definitely. In a nutshell, what is your synopsis of Babywise and what your blog is about for those who might not be familiar?
Babywise is an eat, wake, sleep cycle type of parenting for babies. But the premise of Babywise is so much more than that. It is on creating healthy family relationships where the whole family can thrive. So that is my goal with my blog, is helping the whole family thrive beyond baby sleep. That's an important first step for a lot of people, but growing beyond that to have great relationships as a family.
Yeah, I love that. The thing about the Babywise books that really grabbed me are the underlying principles of starting as you mean to go on and making sure you're living true to your values and this holistic approach. And I really appreciate that. And your blog goes even beyond what the books do. And just the other day, I recommended one of your posts about getting a hysterectomy to one of my friends who's going through it because she could not find any information for a woman in her 30s who is young and had to do this for medical reasons. And that's just like one tiny little topic that you've been able to share with the world. What has that been like growing that blog from that little tiny seed into what it is today?
It's been really satisfying. Like, I really enjoy it. It's my favorite hobby. And I love being able to help people. I love hearing from people like saying, I would have only had one child if not for your blog. And instead I have 4 and things like that. Like, I love that I'm helping people live their best life as parents.
Love that. Has it gone beyond a hobby? Is this something that you are earning money doing as well?
Yes, it is. It takes a lot of time, but I'm able to earn as much as I would if I were working in my degree.
That's amazing. And you're able to stay at home and do that.
Yes.
Yes, that was my goal coming out of school with a degree in English from BYU,
Yeah.
which is just like you. Um, how have you grown that business to continue to be fulfilling? Is it like an intuitive process as your kids have aged, or do you have specific goals you're reaching?
I don't want it to overtake my life at this point. I still want to be able to be present as a mom. So I just have let it grow. So I haven't set like big, huge goals. I've allowed more time. I spent more time on it. And that's really all it takes. It's effort. It's putting in effort constantly and just doing what works.
Mm-hmm. And your website is so complex too. You have probably the most organized, searchable, like by age, by category website I have ever seen. Did you teach yourself how to do all of those pieces?
And I'm a very organized person. Like, I think I'm the most organized person I know. And so the by age thing happened when my little sister had a baby. Her first baby was born a year after my third. And she commented, like, it would be really nice if I could just see everything for a newborn all in one place. And I thought, oh, that's a really good idea. So that element was created because of that. So there's a lot of things that happen when somebody makes a comment that, oh, that's a great idea. But I am constantly trying to organize it further. It is organized, but there's always room for improvement.
This is a podcast on ambition, and clearly you have created this really wonderful thing that fills this need. Do you consider yourself an ambitious person?
I do consider myself an ambitious person because I've always been a person who's willing to work. And I think that is so huge as part of being ambitious. Like, you can have big dreams and be a dreamer, but if you want to be ambitious, you have to be willing to put in effort.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I've always intrinsically been willing to do.
Yeah, I love that. I think a part of that being willing to work also means taking risks and stretching yourself. The part that I can get hung up on in creating something and working in the world is that it's not good enough yet for me. And so I don't want to actually put it out there. Do you have that piece of perfectionism? Does that play into your process?
It's interesting because I am a perfectionist, but I've learned that there are different types of perfectionists. I'm a perfectionist who's willing to work towards perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get there, but I don't expect perfection from the outset. And I have a daughter who is that same way. My husband is a perfectionist who doesn't want to present anything to the world until it is perfect. And my son is that same way too. So it's very interesting to watch. You learn so much about yourself as you watch your children. And so it's interesting to watch the difference just that is inherently within people who are willing to work until they're good at something versus not willing to present something until they're good.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that is an inherent piece of you, or have you worked toward being able to do that?
I think that has been inherent for me, and it is inherent for my daughter. My son, I recognized that he wasn't that way from a young age. And so I intentionally put him in activities that would help him learn that things take work. So one example is piano. I started him in piano lessons at age 5, so that when he was a teenager and frustrated about something, I could say, hey, look at how far you've come at piano and what have you had to do that. Another activity has been swimming, because that's another thing where you have to work bit by bit over time to be good. And he's on the high school swim team. And those things have actually really helped him to fight against that natural tendency to hold back until he's perfect.
Yeah, I love that. Great advice, just right off the top of your head. This is why you were the master at all this. Have there been times where you have lost your enthusiasm for writing and for putting things out in the world?
I haven't gotten to that point at this point, and I've been doing this since 2007. The writing part is my favorite part. I remember being asked by somebody who worked with the people who wrote Babywise, probably a year into it, like asking me, do you think you could continue to write further beyond this, or have you covered everything? And I thought, I don't think this will ever be done. Like, parenting is always an adventure. There are always new things you're learning and things that are changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the approach of this style of parenting is unfolding. I was thinking about everything you have to offer. So my oldest is now 9.5. So I've been coming to your blog a lot, especially even before she was born. Like I was trying to figure out what might I be able to expect. And I had a lot of experience with kids, but with a newborn, what is the range of reasonable expectation? And that's mostly what I use your blog for. Kind of helps ground me. But what I feel like you're doing is it's kind of this case study for this parenting philosophy, this way of living. And we all get to watch and see your kids grow up, and you do little check-ins, I think every like 3 months or 4 months for each one. And we get to see like, okay, how is this child progressing? What's new in their life? And I can kind of get an idea of what's coming next because I like to be prepared and I like to have thought through things as much as I can before they come up. Um, and I think that's probably what makes what you're doing so unique. It's this living document, and yeah, it's never going to be over. And I just think it's really great. And then you have 4 children, so you get these 4 different flavors of kid, and you see this range, even with the same parents, with the same values and goals. Each child is so different. And I love that you speak to that. And it's very validating because I have what's the word that you use? Spirited child.
Strong-willed or emotional or both?
Strong-willed. Yes. All of those things. And
Yes.
it's really helpful to see it from someone else. Like another parent I really respect is still going through these things. And I can read about them and like, okay, like this, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like this kid's going to be okay. And I'm sure there are going to be younger parents because our kids are similar ages for that child. And in coming years, someone else is going to read that and be like, oh, this kid like turned out awesome. And she's going to be the CEO of some big corporation or an entrepreneur or like something that uses all this fire and passion. And so I really appreciate that. What do you say to parents when someone criticizes their approach? I have gotten a lot of not so positive feedback from other adults in my life who are impacted by my children's schedule that I have chosen for them. What do you say to people when that happens?
Yeah, I feel really strongly about this actually, because I feel like the wants of adults need to come after the needs of a child. And so I think a lot of times when adults in your life are upset about your schedule, it's because their wants are being disrupted. And the needs of a child to me the needs of anyone come before anyone else's wants. But especially a child can't advocate for themselves. And so if my child needs to go to bed, then she's going to go to bed, even if that interrupts your vision of what you wanted for this evening. But with other people, like other parents, I firmly believe there's no one right way to parent, like as a general rule. And so parents can parent any way they want to. I think I like to respect the decisions other parents make and how they parent. And I think that translates back to you. If you're respectful of them, they'll respect you. But so just, we all do things our own way, and that's okay.
How have you balanced your love for writing and your drive for writing with your other responsibilities, motherhood, what have you?
A hard thing about taking on something big is you only have so much time in a day. So logically, you have to accept there are things you'll have to give up. And those things will vary depending on what you're spending your time on currently. If you spend a fair amount of time scrolling social media right now, it might simply be giving up that social media time, which may be sad for you or may not be a big deal to you at all. If you have a lot of different hobbies, then there'll be something has to give. So for me, over time, as I've added children and to my life, because each child takes a fair amount of your time and capacity, And as I've grown with my blog and spent more time there, mostly what I've given up is hobbies. So like I used to make jewelry, I don't do that anymore. I used to scrapbook, I don't do that anymore. I used to sew, I don't do that anymore. And so it's like picking, what am I okay with doing instead of this?
Are those hard decisions for you, or is it just really clear where you're
Those
driven?
have been fine for me. There are things I miss about it, but not enough to give up blogging. And that's, I mean, in life, you're just choosing.
Mm-hmm.
You can only do, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So you have to choose, where do you want to spend your time?
Yeah, I love that. In my early days of reading through your blog, I always admired how you managed your time and your goals with your kids' sleep schedules. And from what I understand, you were able to work it with your husband's work schedule and then use neighbors and friends to kind of help get those naps in and get bedtime on time while also running other kids all over the place. I would love to hear more about what it was like developing that support system and how other people can try and do that same thing to, if their goal is to have a certain schedule for different children. How do you build into that?
It's really tapping into your community and finding ways to have a symbiotic relationship. So if I have a child on the swim team and my neighbor has a child on the swim team, then we're going to carpool and we'll take turns picking up. So that helps. Also, like when Brinley was a baby, McKenna was taking dance class, and her dance class would have interrupted a nap, of course, because everything interrupts a nap for a baby, because babies nap all the time. And my mom took her to dance every day and picked her up every day. And that was really helpful to not have to interrupt Brinley's nap for that dance class, so that McKenna was still able to do dance, but Brinley was still able to nap. And then also accepting like it's okay to have disruptions at times, and making sure you're smart about disruptions. So if you know, like for us, every Sunday, naps were disrupted for church. And I made sure every Monday we were home. Like our schedule was, nothing was scheduled on Monday so that the baby could get back on track for naps, because a baby can handle being disrupted if you give the baby time to get back on track. You can only be flexible if you go back to the starting position. You can't be flexible if you're always out of the starting position.
Mm-hmm. I really admire that level of respect for babies' needs. I think that's missing a lot of times in our culture. It feels very all or nothing. The baby rules or the baby gets nothing. And instead, it's like, this is a human who has needs, and we're going to understand those and build support around to like be successful.
Yes.
That makes logical sense for me. As you have expanded your life as a mother and as a blogger and as a writer, do you have any mentors or people in your life who have helped you along the way?
I I have different people I look to for different facets that I look up to with certain elements. Um, there's no one person I look to for all things. So there may be a person in my ward that I admire a certain element about her, or another woman in my neighborhood who I love the way she does this and I'd like to emulate that. Things from family members, mom, mother-in-law, sisters, sisters-in-law, aunts, uncles, just different things, like pieces here and there. I don't have one person that I've modeled everything after.
Mm-hmm. Do you have staples for your success, routine, self care, that kind of thing?
Honestly, I'm really bad at self-care. It's like my biggest weakness is I don't give myself enough time for me. And I've always been that way. Even as a child, I've I've been driven and I work a lot and I don't give myself a lot of leisure time. But one way that I've been very successful is being very routine oriented, and I plan out my week in a reasonable way. I don't overshoot, I don't overplan. I plan in what I can do. I always have a little list of things that I will turn to if I have extra time, but I don't overschedule myself, because you have to have success along the way or you'll give up. And so you have to feel productive and feel like you're doing well. But so having like a consistent, this is what I can do, this is what I will do. I do a lot of blocked work where like I write on Wednesdays. That's the only day I write. I do all Pinterest work on Tuesdays, for example.
Very organized. What would you say to other women who specifically want to have a career and also be a stay-at-home mom and manage that, or get creative with what that looks like? Because like when you graduated, the blogging world was much bigger, and there wasn't as much, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't like all these other social media platforms, and I know that's ever evolving. But for a mother who would like to work from home with her kids, do you have advice on how to create that?
I think one thing is to look at your main goals. You don't want to live with regret. So some women really want to go in and have a full-on career where they are working. They would consider themselves a work-at-home mom, where other women would like to start a career but still want to basically be a stay-at-home mom. I fell in the latter group where I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I only worked when my children were either napping or independent playtime, until my youngest was in school. And then I would work during her school time also. So I've grown much slower than I could have if I had gone all in, but that's been fine with me because that worked with my goals. If you want to work from home on a more full-time basis and go bigger from the get, then it's really smart to figure out where do you need to get help, like what elements of your responsibilities that you would consider your responsibilities at home need to be covered in other areas. So maybe you need to hire a cleaner to come in and help in those ways, or hire someone for yard work, or just figure out other things that would pull at your time and figure out how you can get those supplemented if you need to.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. We can't do everything. And then also add extra things to it.
Yes.
Have you considered what you want to achieve by the end of your life, or how you want to be remembered?
I think about that anytime I go to a funeral. Like when people speak of me at my funeral, what do I want them to say about me? I hope something that will be a theme is that I was willing to help people, and that I helped them, that I helped them be better than they were before they met me. And that would be a big thing. I want my family to know I loved them. I want them all to feel loved equally. Something I admire about my grandmother who's passed away is that everyone thought that they were her favorite. Like it took me until I was about 22 to realize my grandmother had about 30 grandchildren, and I was sure I was her very favorite. And it took me till I was in my early 20s to realize my other cousins think they're her favorite too. Like, what is going on here? And she never told me that I was her favorite. She never used those words, but it's just, the amount of love she gave, just, it felt like, well, obviously I'm the favorite. And, my husband felt like he was her favorite grandchild-in-law too. So I would love for that to be felt by my posterity also, that they all think that they're my very favorite.
I love that goal.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What an amazing woman to have in your life. That's fantastic. Okay, so if people would like to come and interact with you or see all of the amazing content you've produced, how can they reach you online?
Okay, I have several different locations, which is one of the fun things about our modern day. that is also a hard thing about our modern day. On Instagram, I am the Babywise Mom. I also have a Facebook page that is Babywise Mom, and I have a private Facebook group, which is great for people who want to be able to talk privately about any parenting elements and connect with like-minded parents. So that's a really fun group too. I have Pinterest, where you can find me if you like to go on Pinterest. And then of course my blog is babywisemom.com. And I am on YouTube with videos it's pretty young. I'm pretty young on YouTube, but I'm working on that.
All right. Thanks, Valerie, for talking today. This has been fantastic. I know you are a wonderful resource, and so many parents are going to be able to reach out to you and get further help and support. So thanks so much for what you put out in the world.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. The Women of Ambition podcast is a Big Round Schoolhouse production, edited and hosted by me, Alyssa Calder-Hume. If you've enjoyed the podcast thus far, please give us a rating on Apple. It helps people find the podcast and see if it's worth the investment of their time before they hit play. I really appreciate the reviews I've gotten so far. You can also hit subscribe to have the newest episodes come directly to your app of choice. If you do that, you'll be able to listen to the newest episodes a few days before I announce them publicly, which is kind of fun. Thanks so much.